The restaurant had learned to hold its breath. It was an old habit now, the kind that crept into walls and menus in the very air. Whenever Silvio Moretti entered, conversations softened as if wrapped in cotton. Chairs stopped scraping. Waiters moved with careful precision, not from fear alone, but from instinct. Everyone knew stories. Everyone knew not to stare. Silvio sat at the corner table, his back straight, shoulders squared, hands folded with deliberate calm. The suit he wore was dark, flawless, expensive without needing to show it. A single gold ring caught the low light when he shifted his fingers. Around him, two men stood at a respectful distance, eyes scanning the room in slow, practiced arcs. They were there less to protect him than to remind everyone else who he was. Across from him sat Luna. She was small for her age, thin wrists disappearing into the sleeves of her pale dress. Her black curls were neatly pinned, though one stubborn lock kept slipping loose, brushing her cheek. She did not look up. She never did. Her gaze stayed fixed somewhere just above the polished wood of the table, as if she were watching something invisible only she could see. Silvio watched her the way generals watch battlefields, quietly, intensely, searching for any sign of movement. 5 years. 5 years of silence. Doctors had come and gone. The best money could buy. Specialists with calm voices and grim eyes. They spoke of shock, of trauma, of a mind protecting itself by retreating inward. Silvio had nodded, paid, dismissed them all. None of their words filled the empty space at his table. He cleared his throat softly. Luna, he said, careful not to sound commanding. He had learned that lesson early. Orders frightened her. Even gentle ones made her flinch. She didn't respond. The nanny shifted nervously beside her, smoothing the child's dress. She ate very little today, sir, she whispered. Silvio nodded once. She'll eat here. A waiter approached, hands slightly unsteady. Good evening, Mr. Moretti. Food, Silvio said simply. For my daughter. Something warm. The waiter fled like a man released from judgment. Minutes later, another waitress emerged from the kitchen. She was not the one assigned to Silvio's table, she knew that the moment she saw where she was headed. Her steps slowed. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. She had heard the name. Everyone had. Her name was Elena, and she needed the extra shift. She carried the plate carefully, as if the food itself might shatter. Soup, steaming gently. Bread arranged neatly at the side. She approached the table, eyes lowered, posture respectful. Up close, Silvio was more intimidating than the rumors. Not because he looked angry, he didn't, but because his stillness felt absolute, like a cliff edge. She placed the bowl in front of the little girl and forced her voice to remain steady. Here you go, sweetheart. It's warm. The child didn't move. Elena hesitated, then offered a small, genuine smile. Not the professional kind she gave customers, but something softer. You don't have to eat it right away, she said quietly. It'll wait for you. Silvio's eyes flicked to her. Waitresses didn't speak unless spoken to at his table. One of the guards shifted his weight. Elena felt the tension and immediately straightened. I'm sorry, she said quickly, stepping back. Enjoy your meal. She turned to leave, cheeks burning, already preparing herself for reprimand, or worse. That was when a small sound cut through the room. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even clear at first. More like a breath shaped into something else. Elena froze. Silvio's head snapped up. A tiny hand lifted from the table, fingers trembling, then straightening with effort. Luna pointed directly at Elena. Mama. The word rippled through the restaurant like a shockwave. Forks slipped from hands. Someone gasped. A chair scraped loudly, then stilled. Even the guards stiffened, eyes wide. Silvio stared, unblinking. For a fraction of a second, he thought he had imagined it. His mind had played cruel tricks before, hope had a way of doing that. Then Luna spoke again. Mama. Clearer this time. Firmer. Her dark eyes lifted fully for the first time that night, locking onto Elena's face with unsettling certainty. Elena's breath left her lungs in a rush. What? She whispered, her voice breaking. The nanny clutched her chest. Tears streamed down her face as she dropped to her knees. She spoke, she sobbed. Madonna, she spoke. Silvio stood so abruptly his chair toppled backward, crashing to the floor. No one dared move to pick it up. He stepped closer, towering over the table, then slowly lowered himself to one knee in front of his daughter. His hands hovered near her shoulders, afraid to touch, afraid she might vanish. Luna, he said hoarsely. My heart. Look at me. She didn't. Her finger remained outstretched, unwavering now, her whole small body leaning toward the waitress. Mama, she said again, softer, almost pleading. Elena shook her head, panic flooding her features. Sir, I don't understand. I swear, I've never. Silvio turned toward her, and the room held its breath again. What did she call you? He asked. His voice was not loud. That was worse. Elena swallowed hard. Mama, she said weakly. But she must be confused. I didn't mean to. Sit, Silvio said. The single word carried the weight of command and danger. A guard pulled out a chair for her before she even realized she was moving. Elena sat, hands shaking so badly she had to clutch the edge of the seat. Luna slid from her chair with surprising determination and walked, unsteadily but purposefully, toward Elena. The nanny reached out instinctively, but Silvio raised a hand, stopping her. Luna reached Elena and wrapped her small fingers around the hem of her apron. Elena looked down, eyes wide, tears welling despite herself. Sweetheart, she whispered, I think you made a mistake. Luna looked up at her and smiled. It was not a big smile. It was fragile, like something newly discovered. But it was real. Mama, Luna said one more time. Silvio pressed a hand to his mouth. The most powerful man in the room felt his world tilt, crack, and begin to fall apart, not from loss, but from something far more terrifying. Hope. They closed the private room door softly, as if loud sounds might break whatever fragile miracle had just begun. The space was small compared to the restaurant, dimly lit, with dark wood walls and a single table that suddenly felt too large and too empty. Silvio stood near the door for a moment, his back to it, grounding himself. He had faced bullets without flinching, betrayals without mercy, but this terrified him. Elena sat stiffly in the chair, her spine straight, her hands folded in her lap because she didn't know what else to do with them. Luna stood between her knees, gripping her apron with both hands like an anchor. Every time Elena shifted even slightly, Luna tightened her hold, afraid of being left behind. Silvio noticed everything. Sit, he said again, but this time to himself. He pulled out a chair across from them and lowered his weight into it slowly, deliberately, as though sudden movements might send Luna retreating back into silence. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Luna broke it. She smells nice, Luna said, her voice quiet but clear. She pressed her cheek against Elena's thigh. Like soap and sunshine. Elena sucked in a sharp breath. Tears spilled freely now, no longer something she could stop. She hesitated, then very gently placed a hand on Luna's hair. The child leaned into the touch instantly, like she had been waiting for it. Silvio closed his eyes. Luna, he said softly, forcing his voice not to shake, why did you call her that? Luna thought for a moment. She always took her time. Then she looked up at him, really looked at him. Not through him, not past him. She feels like before, Luna said. Silvio frowned. Before what, my love? Before I forgot how to talk, she replied simply. The words landed harder than any accusation ever had. Elena looked up at Silvio, panic flickering through her tears. Sir, I don't know what's happening. I would never confuse her, I swear. I don't have children. I don't even remember my own parents. Silvio leaned back slightly, studying her face. The curve of her cheek. The shape of her eyes when she cried. Something deep in his memory stirred, something he had buried so thoroughly he had convinced himself it never existed. What do you remember? He asked quietly. Elena sniffed. Hospitals. Different houses. Women who tried to be kind but never stayed. I was told my mother died when I was very small. No one ever talked about my father. Silvio's jaw tightened. There had been a woman once. Long before his name carried fear. She had worked nights, laughed easily, smelled like soap and sunlight. She told him she was pregnant in a whisper, afraid of what his world would do to a child. Then she was gone, killed in a fire meant for him. He had been told the baby didn't survive. He had believed it because believing hurt less than hope. Bring water, Silvio said quietly to one of the guards. The man hurried away, clearly shaken. Silvio leaned forward. Elena, he said, tasting the name. I am going to ask you to stay. Not because you owe me anything. But because my daughter needs you. Elena looked down at Luna, who had curled closer now, one small hand fisted in Elena's shirt. I don't understand why, Elena whispered. Neither do I, Silvio replied honestly. The door opened again. A tray of water was placed on the table. No one touched it. Luna reached out and tapped the glass, fascinated by the way the light bent through it. Papa, she said suddenly. Silvio froze. Yes, he breathed. You're loud inside, Luna said, tapping his chest gently. She's quiet. Silvio laughed once, broken, disbelieving, and wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand. You hear too much, he murmured. Hours passed without anyone noticing. Luna spoke more as time went on. Not full conversations, but fragments. Feelings. Observations. Every word came easier when Elena was near. If Elena stood, Luna stood. If Elena sat, Luna climbed into her lap without hesitation, as if the choice had already been made somewhere deeper than memory. At dawn, a man in a dark suit entered silently and handed Silvio a folder. Silvio didn't open it. He didn't need to. He looked at Elena, then at Luna, peaceful now, asleep against Elena's chest for the first time in her life. She's yours, Silvio said softly. Elena's breath hitched. What? My blood, he continued. My first daughter. Elena shook her head, overwhelmed. That's impossible. Silvio finally opened the folder and slid it across the table. Science disagrees. Elena's hands trembled as she read. Numbers blurred. Words meant nothing. All she could feel was the steady warmth of the child breathing against her heart. Silvio stood and walked to the window, giving her space. I thought power would protect what I loved, he said quietly. Instead, it destroyed it. I lost you once. I won't do it again. Elena looked up at him, eyes shining. I don't want your money, she said. Or your name. Silvio nodded. I know. She looked down at Luna and brushed a curl from her face. I just want her safe. Silvio turned back to them. Something new in his expression, something human. Then we want the same thing. Luna stirred and smiled in her sleep, murmuring the word again, soft and certain. Mama. For the first time in his life, Silvio Moretti didn't feel like a king. He felt like a father, standing at the edge of redemption, terrified and grateful all at once.